Hi, my name is Tabitha Baldy. I'm a program specialist for students with disabilities, and I specialize in students who have emotional behavioral disabilities, also known as EBD. This presentation was designed to support general education teachers who may have students with EBD in their inclusive classrooms. So you have a student with EBD, now what? Well, I understand that there's many barriers when it comes to understanding and supporting students with EBD. Some of these barriers include different myths and misconceptions about what EBD is, and perceptions of how students should behave, and perceptions that there are secret special skills that only certain people possess. But the good thing is this presentation, I'm going to try to address some of these barriers and provide some tools for overcoming them. All while helping you keep your sanity. I want to start off by giving you a good picture of what a student with EBD might encounter on a daily basis, as well as some of the supports and services that can be put into place to help them be successful. So I'm going to show you a YouTube video that's actually a trailer for a documentary about a young lady with EBD.
Freshman year I came here. I didn't really know my situation. Sophomore year wasn't good. Second sophomore year wasn't good. I got suspended for the intent of selling and possession of a controlled substance. They were gonna report me to the police, but they didn't because it was my own prescription. I don't like taking medicine. It makes me not want to eat, not want to sleep. When you have ADHD, you suppress a lot of things, like thoughts and anger and energy, and then one day, shut up! We can have lots of dreams and hopes for you. I want to be a police officer. I want a family. I want to be successful in life. But you are the one that plays the critical role. What your vision, what your passion is, will determine whether or not you achieve those dreams. When we lived in Georgia, my mom was always drunk or high or whatever. I hate myself for my kids suffering. And I know it's affected Kelsey, and it's probably hurting her way of thinking.
When she was younger, I was constantly working, so there was a good chunk of my kids' lives where I wasn't around to follow through with what they were doing.
If you dwell on the bad things, you tend to think about it a lot. You get depressed, so then I just block it out completely. I'm failing math now. I really don't care about graduating anymore. By not asking for help, Kelsey, how many classes is she passing? 2 out of 4. You're setting up your own roadblock.
I'm up the twisted. Alright, so, Kelsey, what's the agenda for today?
Graduating. Why not?
Graduating.
If I don't graduate, I'm pretty sure I'm not coming to this school. You're a very determined person, and you feel like I've always taken care of me. I don't need anybody in my life to help me. There's going to be a time in your life, and this is right now. You might need more than just yourself to get through this. I'm going to do that. What do you have trouble on? Yes, the change. 32 plus, 36 plus, 35. Awesome. Great job. There are cold windows. Close your eyes as the shadows roll. Maybe they'll leave you alone. That's not how this story goes. Made in a snowy field. Over my sword and shield. You won't say we'll never heal. And there's nothing left for you to steal. Then you'll understand.
So I think that just gives a good, sets a good solid foundation for this presentation for the rest of it. So before we continue on, let's talk about some myths versus truth about students with EBD. Common myths that I've heard is that sometimes people think that just because a student struggles with problem behaviors, or if they have a medical diagnosis or a mental health diagnosis, then automatically they're a student with EBD. When the truth of the matter is, there's certain criteria, eligibility criteria, that has to be met for a student to be identified as EBD. And one of those criteria is that students receive interventions as soon as they start displaying problem behaviors. So I want to make it clear that any student who's displaying problem behaviors should immediately be provided with positive behavior interventions and supports via their school's multi-tiered systems of supports. Another myth is that students with EBD are angry or aggressive and defiant, when the truth of the matter is that some students with EBD display more internalizing behaviors, but they still have a need for ESE services. And I'll share more about those internalizing behaviors in just a moment with you. Another common myth is that students with EBD know right from wrong. Therefore, they choose to act out, and then they should be punished for choosing to act out. But the truth of the matter is, most students know right from wrong. And regardless of knowing right from wrong, all behavior serves a function. And some students will do anything to get that function met. It's kind of like, people who have a hard time um, stopping smoking. They know that smoking is a bad habit. They know that it's bad for the health. They know they shouldn't be doing it, but they continue to do it because it's serving a function. So think of it that way. It is. They're aware of it. They're choosing to do it, but also it's serving a function. So we need to be aware of that. Another common myth is that students with EBD know right from wrong, and therefore they should know, or excuse me, they know they should treat teachers and administrators with respect. Again, all behavior serves a purpose or a function, and some students will do anything to get that function met. Students with EBD need a firm talking to. I've heard that a number of times from educators. Oh, they say, oh, that student has EBD. You just need to talk to him very firmly and lay down the ground rules and just, give them a firm talking to. But the truth of the matter is, they deserve to be, they need to be, and deserve to be spoken to with dignity and respect, as do all other students. Another myth is that only certain special education teachers possess the skills needed to successfully work with students with EBD. But the fact of the matter is that anyone can successfully work with them, anyone that's willing to. I'm going to go through the eligibility criteria, or some of the eligibility criteria. This is only one piece of it, but to let you know that they display one or more of the following characteristics. When we talk about internal factors, those are feelings of sadness, frequent crying, restlessness, loss of interest in friends and school, mood swings, erratic behavior, presence of symptoms such as fears, phobias, excessive worrying, anxiety, behaviors that result from thoughts and feelings that are inconsistent with actual events or circumstances, or difficulty maintaining normal thought processes, or excessive levels of withdrawal from persons or events. Other external factors are an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships, some behaviors that are chronic and disruptive, such as noncompliance, verbal and or physical aggression, poorly developed social skills that are manifestations of feelings, symptoms, or behaviors. Again, a student doesn't necessarily display all of these. They may display one or more of them, though. So let's talk about what students need from you, what students with EBD need from you. They really need you to, I'm going to use some alliteration here, set clear, concise, and consistent expectations from the beginning. The other thing they need you to do, and we saw a really good example of that in the Who Cares About Kelsey documentary trailer, they just need you to care. And I mean really care. Care about them. Care about their progress. Care about making a difference. Care about earning their trust and respect. And don't fake it, because they'll know. They'll know if you're faking it. They need you to stay calm. Don't lose it no matter what. Another thing they need you to do is become really comfortable with the F word. And I mean really comfortable. So comfortable that it's always on your mind. You're comfortable saying it, screaming it, writing it, doing it. And if you know what I'm talking about, I hope you do. You probably guessed it. I'm talking about fairness. Students with EBD need you to be fair. They need you to be fair and consistent, and they need you to understand that fair doesn't always mean equal. So with that in mind, I want you to consider the following. These are just some things to consider. I'm also a certified instructor for CPI, a Crisis Prevention Institute. And we talk about this a lot in the class. We talk about de-escalation techniques. And I want you to know that when a student or an adult is in an escalated situation, that your next step when you enter that situation is either going to escalate or de-escalate the situation. There is no in between. There is no middle ground. So when you enter it and you decide that you're going to interact with the student in an escalated state, be very careful what your next steps are so that you don't escalate the situation. And also, I need you to recognize that to an escalated state, your title means nothing to that student. So, although again, they know that they should treat teachers and administrators with respect, in an escalated state, that title doesn't mean anything. Another thing to consider is consider having a system in place to prevent escalation from the beginning. That will go so far with all of your students, not just your students with EBD. And that's where our school-wide positive behavior support systems come into play. A really important thing is to always speak to your students as you would like them to speak to you. Think about the golden rule. Think about, how you, want your colleagues to speak to you and your boss to speak to you, and think about how you want your students to speak to you, and then speak to them the same way. Other things to consider is that any behavior can be shaped if you know the reason it's occurring. I learned that at a very young age. Any behavior can be shaped. You just have to find out why it's occurring. And that's what we call the function of the behavior. You have to identify, is it to get something or to get away from something? And then what is that something? For more information on functions of behavior and basic principles of behavior, I'm going to show you a website. This is the Florida's Positive Behavior Support Project website. Under their resources tab, they have a ton. I mean, the whole website is just full of wonderful information. Under the resources tab, they have a presentation specifically on basic principles of behavior, and it talks more about functions of behavior. I'm not going to go into it right now, but that's just another resource that you can check out at your convenience. I want you to consider that shaping behavior can be fun. It's really exciting when you take a student who was displaying some serious problem behaviors and work with them to shape that behavior and get them back on the right track. Something else I want you to really think about is not relying on punitive measures to shape behavior. You're going to be more likely to shape behaviors by teaching and reinforcing desired behaviors. Think about at work. How would you feel if your boss was continuously saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. I hate it when you do that. Why are you always doing that? And they never said anything good about it. Instead, think about how everyone likes to feel appreciated, even me. I would much prefer for my supervisor just to, yeah, I get paid to come to work and do my job, but it's nice to hear a thank you or you do a good job every now and then. So think about the things that we like as adults, and let's try to make sure that we provide that for our students as well. Some additional tips for the classroom are to make learning meaningful and your lessons fun and engaging, and to get to know your students and make a point to include their interests into your lessons. And I say that's the reason I'm a self-proclaimed expert on snakes. I had a student one time who, if he was not fully engaged, if I didn't engage him from the second he walked into my classroom, he would put his head down and he would be down for the count, and there was no way on earth I was going to get him engaged. So I knew that if I could have some type of activity somehow, some way, and sometimes it was a stretch, but if I could relate it to reptiles, I had his attention and we were going to have a good class. And that was a lot of extra work for me to do that, but it was less work than trying to intervene once he was already shut down. So again, I encourage you to adapt to the needs of your students, and I really encourage you to listen to what they tell you or others tell you about your lessons and our teaching style. Again, I've learned more from my students about good instruction than I ever learned when I was in college, in my college classes, prepping to be an educator. I had students that would tell me this is boring, and I have to honestly reflect on it. Every time I was told that, my lesson was boring. And so it was generally because I didn't take the time to prepare for it or something like that. And it wasn't often that happened, and it hurts when they tell you that, but if they tell you that it's boring or, it's, not, they don't understand or, stuff like that, or they don't understand why they have to learn it, consider listening to them and taking that feedback. For assignments and testing, I don't want you to assume that all students with EBD require certain accommodations. You need to really base it on individual needs and individual present levels of performance. Collaborate with other teachers on what students' needs are, and that includes your special education teachers and gen ed teachers, and then always use your data to help drive your decisions around student needs. Teachers Know Best is going to be part 2 of this presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and end this one here, and I'd like for you to come back and consider part 2, where I'm going to share with you insight from actual teachers who have had great success working with students with EBD. So if you will, come back for part 2.